Welcome back to So That Was a Movie. Today we are discussing top 10 Jim Carrey comedies.
Thank God Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is coming so that we can do this.
We are excluding Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Truman Show,
Number 23,
The Man on the Moon,
The Majestic, Batman Forever.
Anybody in the comments wondering why we didn't rank them? This is why.
I'll start. My 10th pick might be a controversial one. I'm going with Me, Myself, and Irene. A gross and stupid movie. And you know what? It's one of those where I laugh shamefully every time I watch it. Jim Carrey basically plays this cop who gets, pretty much bullied and verbally abused on the daily, and then one day he just snaps, and he has this split personality who wants to everything and fight everybody. I don't think it would get made today, but he gives it his all.
Number 10, I have I Love You, Philip Morris. There's some pretty bonkers lines in it. One of my favorite parts is, kind of like how you play the telephone game in music class, kind of whisper something to somebody, and then it comes out at the other end after 20 people. It comes out something totally that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. There's a joke here in that movie where they it's kind of like one of those, so something walks into a bar kind of jokes, and it kind of just goes through a bunch of people to where it becomes just totally unintelligible and just a bunch of slurs basically jabbed together, and it's just so tone deaf the way that he says it so happily. He just says it like ba 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 ba.
Do you want to repeat the joke?
Not particularly, but yeah, it is a funny scene, but mostly because Jim Carrey's just like, that's not even a joke, you absolute moron! It's a good clip.
Number 9, I was really back and forth on this one. It is Bruce Almighty. I know, 9, I like the movie. I've never quite loved it. It's a good showcase for him to just have fun and do shit.
Definitely be making an appearance on my list later. We'll see how high. At number 9, I have a bit of an interesting decision, and I'm gonna live with it. The Mask. From 1994, started it all. I have not seen this movie in probably 8 years.
Oh my
God.
God.
That is probably the main reason, and it's kind of before I started obsessing over movies. If I had rewatched it closer to making this, that it would be higher on my list, especially when you see my number 8, but I don't care. I quite enjoy my number 8, so be ready for those comments.
Well, I'll get back to that later. My number 8, I'm going with The Grinch. I don't care. I think he is tremendous in that movie. The rest of the movie, not great. But I like it. I watch it every year, and I mostly watch it because I don't think anybody could do it better. I'll just say, I'm always impressed by the fact that he was utterly miserable making it, because he felt like the makeup was burying him alive. But he looks like he's having an absolute ball for 2 hours. It's a real tribute to what he can do.
Christian's already worried about his 7 and 8 picks. I'm going to be that meme with the soldier. I'm going to take the bullet for him here. My number 9 and 8 is probably the most controversial of this video. My 8th is Yes Man.
Cool.
That I think is very underrated. I don't understand what the issue was for people. It's got a perfect setup. He has to say yes to anything and everything. And it's Jim Carrey. So he just goes nuts and does certain things that you wouldn't expect him to do, and does certain things that you wouldn't expect him to do over here. Everybody plays off of it straight. I also really like the romance with Zooey Deschanel. I think that stuff's fun. And Terrence Stamp has a really good character here too.
He does.
Jim Carrey has fun playing off of. That's my controversial pick.
I like that movie too. I think the problem people have with that movie is the fact that Jim Carrey also has Liar Liar. I think that's literally it. Because I think it's good. But I'm honestly end over backwards for that man. Yeah, my number 7. I feel like this is a movie lost to time. I'm going with a series of unfortunate events. I know I'm like the only person on this earth who loves that movie. I love it. I don't care. It's great. I've always been really bummed they never made a sequel.
I remember the funniest part by far being the opening where it talks about the elf.
Oh my God, I know. I remember sitting there in the theater, I was like, are we in the wrong movie?
It's so
I was in
dumb.
the 2nd grade, and I was like, oh, okay. I feel like it does capture the spirit of the books, and it's just great looking.
Kind of one of those where it's like, oh, they didn't continue with it? Then that one must have been bad. But in reality, it's just they made the decision not to continue with it for some reason.
Yeah, it won an Oscar, nominated for 4, so somebody got it.
7, Ace Ventura. 2, When Nature Calls. You could argue that this has maybe the funniest scene that he's ever done. The part where he comes out of the rhino is genuinely one of the funniest things Jim Carrey's ever done. In terms of YouTube clips that you can pull up, that is probably in the top 3 at least. It's like a whole family is watching this rhino. It's a mechanical rhino in reality that Jim Carrey is spying on people with. He gets too hot because it's a freaking mechanical rhino. So he's trying to find the way out. So he ends up coming out of the rear. The rhino's giving birth. It's like his tongue is coming out. And it's just so funny. And it's the parents are watching him. And just absolutely hilarious because he's naked too.
You know he doesn't like that movie?
Because it's a sequel and he's done it before. And not as good as the first one, but still.
I left it off of my list. I was not proud of it, but I did it for the sake of variety. Number 6 is I Love You, Philip Morris. I think that was the last time he was great on screen. It's a really gay movie. It's so funny, and it's also just hard to believe it's a true story, but it's really entertaining. Ewan McGregor is great in that, too.
My number 6, I have the Grinch. He kind of just plays absolutely perfectly like Christian says, and it's basically just, it's not necessarily the Grinch, but I don't care because it's just Jim Carrey in Grinch makeup acting like an asshole the whole time and doing it in a hilarious Jim Carrey fashion. One of the more underrated performances just in general because people kind of gave it shit just because it was a Dr. Seuss live action movie, but it's pretty perfect in terms of having fun with a character and he's just going nuts. And I don't think the rest of the movie around it is that bad. Like,
no,
I think it's pretty
not
interesting, but like obviously it's just more filler because it's based on short 30-minute cartoon that's done perfectly. But at the same time, I do like the other random silly stuff that they throw in it. So I think it's a genuinely good movie.
I can't show that again. Number 5, 1996 is The Cable Guy. I think comedically he is at his most delirious. It's a movie I've had a weird relationship with. Growing up, I was like, this makes me horribly uncomfortable. Even as an adult, it still does, but also it's just really funny. If you understand that it's all just a parody of obsession thrillers from that time, it makes it funnier, but also it's just a funny movie in general, and he's got the fifth. Steven.
My number 5 is Bruce Almighty. I think this one is also underrated. Another one of these movies where it has a great premise for Jim Carrey to go nuts with. He's literally given the opportunity to play God. And it's bounced off of Morgan Freeman playing God as the actual character. And it's kind of great casting. And Jennifer Aniston is fun. Their relationship kind of gets some sad parts too, mixed in with the hilarious stuff. They let him have fun with creating miracles and messing with Steve Carell.
I like do the cha-cha.
My nipples with the friends.
4th place, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Oh shit!
I know. I totally love that movie, and it's in 4th place. Do you know how hard this was for me? It was really not easy. And hard. It is like the Jim Carreyest Jim Carrey role. It kind of blows me away to think that people hated that movie when it came out. I think the reviews of that have aged poorly. It is 90 minutes, and it's all really funny. He is so cartoonish in it, and perhaps nobody was ready for that. The Ray Finkel storyline hasn't aged well for some. I don't really care. These 4 in particular are him in top form.
Number 4, I have Cable Guy. Back in the day, before I got into all movies, I was basically obsessed with comedy, and anything comedy. It could be the dumbest comedy ever, or it could be a genuinely good comedy. So I was obsessed with a couple of these movies that are going to end up being my top 3, a couple that I've already mentioned. But one of them that kind of seeps through the cracks is The Cable Guy. I think I watched this on IFC probably like 8 years ago, and I'm big into basketball too. They have this scene immediately where he's playing basketball, like trying to fit in with the guys at the YMCA, and he's just absolutely nuts Jim Carrey, and it's a perfect like Jim Carrey character. Where he's not playing Jim Carrey, he's playing a Jim Carrey character, which is the best stuff that he does. He just goes absolutely nuts, total try hard, and he dunks the ball even at one point and just shatters the backboard.
I love this game.
That immediately like hooks me in. I'm just like, this is hilarious. He's an absolute nut job, and it just keeps building on that. The medieval knight scene goes and jousts, takes it way too seriously. He plays porno password with Leslie Mann and Matthew Broderick and all these older people in this family. Everybody that plays off of him other than Matthew Broderick love this guy, and Matthew Broderick's just like, this guy is an absolute psychopath because he is. But that's what makes it so funny is that everybody else is like, I think this guy's great. It's up there with his best stuff, I think.
I have a question. Why don't you do back have to have your bolts tightened. Because my number 3 is The Mask, which was his number 9. It's okay. I honestly cite The Mask as the first movie I ever saw. I think I've seen it more than any other movie ever. He just throws himself into it for about 100 minutes. I've heard that they saved a lot of money on visual effects just because he was able to do the shit that he does in it. And I believe it, because the guy is just so damn flexible. Cameron Diaz looks tremendous in it. I think it's great. I think it's a very iconic... Yeah.
Probably due for a rewatch, but anyway. My number 3, I have Liar Liar. Just a damn good movie. You could argue that this is probably his best movie when you combine the humor in it and the story in it. I could make a very good argument that this is his best movie. Although, I'll say The Truman Show is his best movie.
Yeah.
But Liar Liar, I feel like there's an argument if you want to also acknowledge Jim Carrey's greatness as Jim Carrey, coupled with the movie's greatness. I think if you combine those two, you could argue this is his best movie. He just goes all in once again, and this is probably his best premise. So many iconic scenes where he can't lie. Again, goes back to the rubberiness of his face, where you can feel that it's impossible for him to lie. Like, you can feel that in his performance, where he's just like, I can't even make the words with my lips because I'm not allowed to lie. And there's just so many good scenes. It's got a really good story to it, really good moral and everything, and it's just a fantastic movie. The courtroom scenes are all just amazing.
It is actually my number 2. Think about the part where he's fighting with the pen.
The pen is blue!
Or like he's trying to tell his first lie in court. He's like doing this weird thing with his mouth. He beats the shit out of himself. It's so funny. I was in like the 4th grade when I first saw it. I had it on VHS and I just rewound it and watched it 4 times. I had nothing better to do. I wouldn't have wanted to spend my time elsewhere.
My number 2 is Dumb and Dumber. You could argue that this is his funniest movie. Dumb and Dumber is perfect comedy just in general. It's just crafted really well. Back in the day when I was watching just dumb comedies, this was probably like The Godfather compared to like some of the other things, because it allows its characters to be the dumbest people you've ever met while also just being a well-crafted comedy, because everybody else plays it completely straight and kind of like thinks that they're these masterminds, but in reality they're the dumbest people you've ever seen. Jim Carrey plays off very well with Jeff Daniels, and so many iconic lines and scenes.
I got worms. We got no food. We got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off. I don't know, Lloyd. The French are assholes.
yeah, it's so stupid. And if you can have a scene where somebody's literally pooping on the toilet for like 3 minutes and it actually be funny, you know you got a good movie.
Yeah, it's my number 1. I think the best kind of a stupid movie is the one where you can tell there was creativity put into the stupidity. How everybody thinks that Lloyd Christmas and Harry Dunn are these criminal masterminds, and they're just causing a ruckus everywhere they go. People who are against them think that they're just ahead of the curve, and they have no idea what they're involved in. It's hilarious. It is that rare 2-hour comedy that I think actually earns its runtime. Pretty much consistently funny. Comedically, this or Liar Liar is him at his best. Also, Jeff Daniels' casting is pretty inspired too. He was doing like Terms of Endearment and Purple Rose at Cairo at this time. The guy's got range too. I feel like I could go on all day referencing when he pulls up in the limo and he's like, "Good day, mate. Another shrimp on the barbie." So you're saying there's a chance.
Goodbye, my love! You probably know by now, based on everything that's been explored.
Horton, here's a hoop.
My number 1 is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Tough time deciding what my number 1 was going to be, but ultimately, my argument in my head, this is a Jim Carrey movie. This is Jim Carrey, the movie. It's literally all on the back of Jim Carrey, other than Miss Finkel.
Dan Marino can die of gonorrhea in rotten hell. Would you like a cookie, son?
From opening scene, opening second of the movie, where he's just throwing this package around willy-nilly, just doing all this dumb crap where he's throwing it against this, throwing it against that, putting it down the stairs. You already know that this guy's insane, and he's Jim Carrey, and he's going nuts. I just think that stands the test of time in terms of just absolutely cartoon character of Jim Carrey. And it's just kind of one of the first Jim Carrey movies that you ever get exposed to as a kid growing up. and loving comedy, and he's just absolutely all in with that. So many iconic parts. Coming out of the bathroom and just be like, do not go in there. Woo! Yeah. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective at number 1. That's our list. Top 10 Jim Carrey movies. In terms of comedies, we'd be interested to know what some of your favorites are, what your top 5 are, however you want to go about it. Hopefully you enjoyed.
And if I don't see you,
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.